The ship was dying. Captain Riven could feel it in his bones. Every shake of the floor, every flicker of the lights, every groan of the metal walls told him the same thing. The pale horizon would not survive much longer. He stood on the bridge and looked at the damage report on his screen. Shields at 4%. Weapons completely offline. Life support failing in 3 sections. 200 wounded soldiers in the medical bay and not enough healers to save them all. "Captain," said Lieutenant Cora from her station. Her voice was tired. They had been running for 6 days. "We cannot continue at this speed. The engines will fail within the hour." Riven closed his 4 eyes slowly. The Velthari were a proud species. They had been fighting the Dreth Dominion for 20 years. They did not ask for help. They did not show weakness. But now he had no choice. "What systems are nearby?" he asked. Cora checked her screen. Her long fingers moved quickly over the controls. Then she stopped. Her face showed confusion. "There is one," she said slowly. "But Captain, it is the human system, Earth." Riven felt his stomach turn. Humans, the newest species in the galactic commons. They had joined only 15 years ago. According to all reports, they were primitive. Their technology was basic. Their ships were slow and poorly armed. The galactic commons had accepted them mostly out of pity. "Is there nothing else?" Riven asked. "Nothing within range, Captain. We will be dead before we reach any other system." Riven looked around his bridge. His crew was exhausted. Some of them had not slept in 3 days. In the medical bay below, soldiers were dying every hour. He thought of their families back home. He thought of the messages he would have to send if they did not survive. "Contact the humans," he said quietly. "Tell them we need help." The message went out into the darkness of space. Riven expected to wait for hours. Most species took a long time to respond to distress calls. There were committees to consult, permissions to obtain, forms to complete. That was how the galaxy worked. The response came in 4 minutes. "Velthari vessel Pale Horizon, this is Admiral Han Tiho of Earth's Orbital Defense Station Mugunghwa. We have received your distress signal. Rescue ships are launching now. Medical teams are standing by. Please transmit your exact location and a list of your wounded. Help is coming." Riven stared at the communication screen. 4 minutes. No questions about payment. No requests for authorization. Just help is coming. "Captain," said Cora, her voice strange. "I am detecting multiple ships approaching our position. Human ships. They will arrive in 12 minutes. 12 minutes. Riven could not believe it. "That is impossible. We are on the edge of their system." "They appear to have been already deployed, Captain. Patrol ships, perhaps. They are moving very fast." The human ships arrived in 11 minutes. 3 sleek vessels, smaller than the Pale Horizon but clearly well-maintained. They moved with a speed and precision that surprised Riven. These did not look like the ships of a primitive species. A voice came over the communication system. "Pale Horizon, this is Rescue Team Leader. We are attaching tow cables to your vessel. Please do not be alarmed. We will guide you to Mugunghwa Station for repairs. Our medical shuttles are requesting permission to dock with your ship immediately." "Medical shuttles?" Riven asked. "Yes, Captain. Admiral Tiho has sent 2 fully equipped medical teams. They wish to begin treating your wounded during transport. Do we have your permission?" Riven looked at Cora. She seemed as confused as he felt. No species sent medical teams to a foreign ship before it even reached dock. It was unheard of. "Permission granted," Riven said. Within minutes, the human shuttles had attached to the Pale Horizon. Riven watched on his internal cameras as humans rushed into his ship. They wore white medical uniforms and carried boxes of equipment. They moved with purpose and speed, heading straight for the medical bay. The leader of the medical team was a woman. She walked with confidence and authority. When she reached the medical bay, she did not wait for permission to act. She simply looked at the rows of wounded Velthari soldiers and began giving orders. Set up triage stations here, here, and here. I need plasma ready for all blood types. Get me a full scan of every patient. Move, people, we have work to do. Riven watched in amazement. The humans did not hesitate. They did not ask questions about Velthari biology. They simply went to work, treating his soldiers as if they were their own. 1 hour later, the pale horizon was guided into the dock of Mugunghwa Station. Riven stepped off his ship and stopped in his tracks. The station was massive, far larger than galactic records indicated, and everywhere he looked he saw ships, human warships, hundreds of them, sitting in hangar bays that should not exist. A human man approached him. He was older, with gray in his black hair and calm eyes. He wore a military uniform covered in medals. "Captain Riven," the man said, extending his hand in the human greeting. "I am Admiral Hantiho. Welcome to Earth space. Your ship and your crew are safe now." Riven took the offered hand. The human's grip was firm and warm. "Admiral," Riven said carefully, "I must ask. The galactic records say that Earth has only 40 defense ships, but I have counted at least 300 in this station alone." Admiral Tiho smiled. It was a small smile, but there was something behind it, something that made Riven feel both curious and nervous. "Galactic records are often incomplete, Captain. Now, please. Your crew needs rest and your ship needs repairs. We can discuss the details later. For now, let us take care of you." A woman appeared beside the Admiral. She was younger, with sharp eyes and oil stains on her uniform. She carried a tablet computer and was already typing on it. "I am Dr. Yuna," she said, "Chief Engineer of this station. I will personally oversee the repairs to your vessel. With your permission, I would like to board and assess the damage." Riven blinked. The chief engineer, coming to his ship personally. On most stations, the chief engineer never left their office. They sent assistants for such tasks. "That is very generous," Riven managed to say. Dr. Yuna shrugged. "Your ship took a beating. You were fighting the Dreth, yes. I have read the reports about their weapons. Nasty stuff. I want to see the damage myself so I can fix it properly." She did not wait for his response. She simply walked past him and onto his ship, already making notes on her tablet. Lieutenant Cora appeared beside Riven. She watched Dr. Yuna disappear into the pale horizon with a strange expression. "Captain," she said quietly, "something is not right here. These humans. They are not what the records say. They are not primitive. They are not weak. Look at this station. Look at their ships. Look at how they act." Riven nodded slowly. He had noticed the same things, the speed of their response, the size of their fleet, the confidence in their movements. Everything about the humans was wrong, wrong compared to what the galaxy believed about them. "What are they hiding?" Cora whispered. Riven watched as more human engineers entered his ship, carrying tools and equipment. He watched as human medical teams continued to work on his wounded soldiers. He watched as human officers moved around the station with purpose and discipline. "I do not know," he replied, "but I intend to find out." Above them, through the station's massive windows, Earth turned slowly in the darkness. A small blue planet, home to a species that the galaxy had dismissed as unimportant. A species that had just saved his ship and his crew without asking for anything in return. Riven had been fighting wars for 30 years. He had met many species. He had seen kindness and cruelty, strength and weakness. But he had never seen anything quite like this. The humans were different, he could feel it. And that difference, he suspected, was about to change everything. The medical bay of Mugunghwa Station was full of Velthari soldiers. They lay in rows of clean white beds, connected to human machines that beeped and hummed softly. Human doctors and nurses moved between them, checking readings, changing bandages, and speaking in calm voices. Corporal Bora walked down the center of the room. She was young for a human military medic, but her eyes were sharp and her hands were steady. She stopped at each bed, reading the charts, asking questions, making notes. She did not treat the alien soldiers any different than she would treat humans. "This one needs more fluid replacement," she said to a nurse. "And that one's wound is getting infected. Start antibiotics immediately." Healer Mivak watched her from across the room. He was the chief medical officer of the Pale Horizon, and he had been awake for 4 days straight. His body was exhausted. His mind was foggy, but he could not stop watching the humans work. They were efficient, more than efficient. They were caring. They touched his soldiers gently. They spoke to them softly, even though they could not understand the Velthari language. They held hands. They smiled. They acted as if these wounded aliens were their own family. Mivak did not understand. He tried to stand up from his chair, but his legs gave out beneath him. He felt himself falling, and then strong arms caught him. "Easy there," said Corporal Bora. She had crossed the room in seconds. "When did you last sleep?" "I cannot sleep," Mivak said. "My people need me." "Your people are being taken care of. Look around you. We have enough staff to handle this. What your people need is for their healer to not collapse from exhaustion." She guided him to an empty bed and gently pushed him to sit down. "Rest," she ordered. "That is not a request. I am putting you on medical leave for the next 8 hours." "You cannot give me orders," Mivak protested. "I am not part of your military." "No, but you are in my medical bay, and in my medical bay I am the god." She smiled to show she was joking, but her voice was firm. "Sleep, Healer Mivak. Your soldiers are safe, I promise." Mivak wanted to argue, but his body betrayed him. Within moments of lying down, he was asleep. On the other side of the station, Dr. Yuna was inside the Pale Horizon with her engineering team. They had been working for 6 hours already, and they showed no signs of stopping. Lieutenant Cora followed them through the ship, watching everything they did. She did not trust these humans. Something about them was wrong. They were too helpful, too generous. In her experience, no one gave anything for free. There was always a price. "Your power conduits are completely destroyed," Dr. Yuna said, pointing at a burned section of wall. "The Dreth weapons did this, yes. Their plasma bolts are designed to overload electrical systems." "You know about Dreth weapons?" Cora asked, surprised. "We study everything. Here, look at this." Dr. Yuna pulled out a small device from her tool bag. "This is a human-designed power conduit. It has built-in surge protection. It can handle 3 times the power load of your current system, and it will not overload from Dreth plasma." "Why would you give us better equipment?" Cora demanded. "What do you want in return?" Dr. Yuna looked at her with confusion. "Want? We do not want anything. You are fighting the Dreth. The Dreth are enemies of the Galactic Commons. That makes them our enemies too. If we can help you fight them better, we will. But your species is new. You have no stake in this war. The Dreth have not attacked you." "Not yet." Dr. Yuna's eyes grew serious. "But they will. The Dreth attack everyone eventually. We are not stupid, Lieutenant. We can see where this war is going. Better to have strong allies now than to stand alone later." Cora opened her mouth to argue, but she could not find the words. The logic was strange but solid. These humans thought far ahead. They planned for futures that had not yet arrived. "Just fix the ship," Cora said finally. "I will be watching." Dr. Yuna shrugged and went back to work. Her team replaced conduits, rewired systems, and recalibrated weapons with a speed that impressed even Cora. By the end of the day, the Pale Horizon's weapons were not just repaired. They were operating at 140% of their original capacity. "How is this possible?" Cora whispered as she checked the readings. "Human engineering," Dr. Yuna said simply. "We like to improve things." Meanwhile, Captain Riven had been invited to the station's cafeteria. He sat alone at a table, observing the humans around him. They ate strange foods and drank from small cups. They laughed and talked loudly. They seemed happy, despite the war that threatened the galaxy. A man approached his table. He was short and round, with a friendly face and a white apron. "You must be Captain Riven," the man said. "I am Yi. I run this cafeteria. You look like you need something to drink." "I am not familiar with human drinks," Riven admitted. "Then let me introduce you to the greatest invention in human history." Yi disappeared and returned moments later with a small cup filled with dark liquid. Steam rose from its surface. "This is coffee." Riven looked at the cup suspiciously. "What does it do?" "It wakes you up, makes your mind clear, gives you energy. Just try it. One sip." Riven lifted the cup to his lips and drank. The liquid was bitter but not unpleasant. It was warm going down. And then something strange happened. His mind, which had been foggy with exhaustion, suddenly became sharp. His eyes, which had been heavy, snapped open. He felt energy flowing through his body, pushing away the tiredness that had built up over days of running and fighting. "What is this?" Riven demanded, staring at the cup. "Is this a combat stimulant, a drug?" Yi laughed. "No, no, it is just coffee. We drink it every morning, sometimes several times a day." "Every morning? Your entire species consumes this regularly." "Most of us, yes. We need it to function. Without coffee, humans are slow and grumpy. With coffee, we can do anything." Riven took another sip. The effect was even stronger the second time. He felt like he could fight 10 Dreth soldiers with his bare hands. "This is incredible," he said. "Why has no one told us about this?" Yi shrugged. "I guess no one asked. Most species do not react well to caffeine, but it seems like Velthari do." Word spread quickly through the station. Within an hour, dozens of Velthari crew members were crowding into the cafeteria, asking for coffee. Yi and his staff worked frantically to keep up with the demand. They brewed pot after pot, watching in amazement as the aliens discovered caffeine for the first time. "This is the best thing I have ever tasted," said one Velthari soldier. "I feel like I could run for days," said another. "Can we take some with us when we leave?" asked a third. Yi smiled and started packing bags of coffee beans. "Take as much as you want. We have plenty." Captain Riven sat in the middle of the chaos, drinking his third cup of coffee. He watched his crew laugh and talk with the humans. He watched the barriers between species melt away over shared cups of a simple drink. He watched something beautiful happen. And then his communication device buzzed. He looked at the message. It was from Fleet Command of the Galactic Commons. His stomach dropped as he read the words. "Urgent, Dreth Dominion has launched major offensive. 3 Velthari colony worlds under siege. All available ships requested for defense. Situation critical." Riven set down his coffee cup. His hands were shaking, but not from the caffeine. 3 colony worlds, millions of people, under attack while he sat here drinking and laughing. He stood up and walked to the window. Outside, he could see Earth, beautiful and blue. He could see the human ships in their hangars. He could see a station full of people who had helped him without asking for anything in return. But none of that mattered now. His people were dying and there was nothing he could do. His ship was still being repaired. Even if it was ready tomorrow, one cruiser could not save 3 worlds. The Dreth had hundreds of ships, thousands of soldiers. They would burn those colonies to the ground and he would be too late to stop them. Lieutenant Cora appeared beside him. She had received the same message. "What do we do, Captain?" she asked quietly. Riven shook his head. "I do not know. Our ship cannot make a difference. We are one vessel against an armada." "Should we tell the humans?" Riven looked back at the cafeteria. Yi was still handing out coffee. Human and Velthari crew members were still laughing together. It was a beautiful scene, a moment of peace in a galaxy at war. "Yes," Riven said. "We should tell them. They have been kind to us. They deserve to know what is happening." He turned away from the window and went to find Admiral Tiho. He did not expect the humans to help. They were a small species, a new species. They had already done more than anyone could ask. But he would tell them anyway, because that was what friends did. And somehow, over the past day, the humans had become his friends. Captain Riven found Admiral Tiho in the command center of Mugungwa Station. The human was standing before a large screen, studying star maps with his officers. When Riven entered, Tiho turned to face him with a knowing look. "You received the message from Fleet Command," Tiho said. "It was not a question." "You know about the attack?" Riven asked, surprised. "We monitor all Galactic Commons communications. 3 Velthari colony worlds under siege. The Dreth are using their full invasion force. It is a major offensive." Tiho's voice was calm, but his eyes were serious. "I am sorry, Captain. This is terrible news." Riven nodded slowly. "I came to tell you that we will be leaving as soon as our ship is ready. We must return to our people. Even if we can only save a few lives, we must try." "One ship against the Dreth Armada," Tiho shook his head. "That is not a rescue mission, that is suicide." "Perhaps, but it is better than sitting here while my people burn." Tiho was quiet for a long moment. He looked at the star map, then back at Riven. Something changed in his expression. A decision was being made. "Captain Riven," Tiho said slowly, "what if I told you that you did not have to go alone?" Riven stared at him. "What do you mean? How many ships do you need?" The question hung in the air. Riven did not understand. Earth was a minor power. They had 40 ships according to galactic records. What could they possibly offer against the Dreth Dominion? "I do not understand," Riven said. Tiho smiled. It was a small smile, but there was fire behind it. "Come with me, Captain. There is something you need to see." They walked through the station, past busy corridors and crowded work areas. They took an elevator that went down, deep into the heart of the station. When the doors opened, Riven stepped out into a massive hangar bay. And he stopped breathing. Ships, hundreds of ships, warships of every size lined up in perfect rows, destroyers and cruisers and carriers, vessels that gleamed with new armor and bristled with weapons, ships that were not in any galactic record, ships that should not exist. "What is this?" Riven whispered. A new voice answered, "This is Earth's real fleet." Riven turned. A man in a general's uniform was walking toward them. He was tall and broad, with a face that had seen many battles. Beside him walked a woman in diplomatic clothes, elegant and calm. "Captain Riven," said Admiral Tiho, "allow me to introduce General Yoon Seung, commander of Earth's United Fleet, and Ambassador Nari, our representative to the Galactic Commons." General Yoon extended his hand. His grip was like iron. "Captain, I have heard good things about you. Your ship survived 6 days of running from the Dreth. That takes skill." "Thank you," Riven managed to say, "but I still do not understand. These ships, there must be hundreds of them. Why does the galaxy not know about this?" Ambassador Nari answered, "Because we chose not to tell them. When Earth joined the Galactic Commons, we were genuinely new to interstellar travel. But we are fast learners, Captain, very fast. We studied every piece of technology we could find. We improved what we learned, and we built." "For 15 years, General Yoon continued, we have been preparing for this moment. We knew that one day the Dreth or some other power would threaten the galaxy. We knew that when that day came, we would need to be ready." Riven looked at the ships again. Now he could see details he had missed before. The weapons were not standard galactic designs. They were hybrid systems, combining human engineering with alien technology. The armor was thicker than any warship he had seen. The engines looked impossibly powerful. "How many ships do you have?" he asked. 812 warships, General Yoon said, "plus support vessels, medical ships, and supply carriers. A complete battle fleet." 800 ships. Riven felt dizzy. This was not a defense force. This was an armada. This was a power that could change the balance of the entire galaxy. "Why are you showing me this?" Riven asked. Admiral Tiho stepped forward. "Because we want to help. Your people are dying, Captain. 3 worlds are burning. We have the power to stop it." "But why?" Riven demanded. "What do humans gain from this? Why risk your ships and your people for a war that is not yours?" Ambassador Nari's expression softened. "Because it is the right thing to do. Captain, humans are strange, we know this. We care about things that do not benefit us directly. We help strangers. We fight for causes that are not our own. It is simply who we are." "There is also a practical matter," General Yoon added. "The Dreth will not stop at the Velthari colonies. If they defeat the Commons fleet, they will come for everyone, including us. Better to fight them now together than to wait until we stand alone." Riven was silent. His mind was racing. This was too much to process. 24 hours ago, he had expected to die in the darkness of space. Now he was standing in a hangar full of warships, being offered the chance to save his people. "What do you want in exchange?" he asked finally. Ambassador Nari smiled. "Full voting rights in the Galactic Commons Council. Earth has been treated as a minor power for too long. If we are going to fight this war, we want a seat at the table when it is over." "That is all, just voting rights." "That is all. We are not interested in conquest or territory. We just want to be treated as equals." Riven thought about it. The Galactic Commons Council would resist. They had always looked down on humans, but if Earth's fleet saved 3 colony worlds from destruction, no one could deny them after that. "I need to contact High Commander Thel," Riven said. "He leads the Commons military forces. He must approve any allied action." "Already done," said Ambassador Nari. She pulled out a communication device and activated it. A hologram appeared in the air between them. High Commander Thel was a tall being with silver skin and golden eyes. He was the most powerful military leader in the Galactic Commons, and right now, he looked exhausted and desperate. "Captain Riven," Thel said, his voice tired. "I see you have survived. That is good news. We have little enough good news these days." "High Commander," Riven replied. "The humans have offered to send their fleet to defend the Velthari colonies. They have 800 warships ready to deploy." Thel's eyes widened. 800, that is impossible. Earth has only 40 ships. "That is what the records say, yes. But I am standing in their hangar bay, and I can see hundreds of ships with my own eyes. They have been hiding their true strength." Thel was silent for a long moment. His expression shifted from surprise to suspicion to something that looked like hope. "Why would humans help us?" he asked. "What do they want?" Ambassador Nari stepped into view of the hologram. "Full voting rights in the council. That is our only condition. Accept it, and our fleet will leave for the Velthari systems within the hour." "Human ships have never been tested in large-scale combat," Thel said slowly. "How do I know they will be effective?" "You do not," General Yoon answered. "You will have to trust us, or you can refuse our help and watch 3 colony worlds burn. The choice is yours, High Commander." Thel closed his eyes. Riven could see the weight of the decision pressing down on him. Millions of lives hung in the balance. The future of the Galactic Commons might depend on what he said next. "Very well," Thel said finally. "I accept your terms. Send your fleet. If you save our people, Earth will have its voting rights. You have my word." The hologram faded. Ambassador Nari turned to General Yoon and nodded. "Sound the alert," General Yoon said. "All ships prepare for immediate departure. We are going to war." Alarms began to ring throughout the station. Riven watched as human soldiers and crew members rushed to their stations. The hangar bay came alive with activity. Engines roared to life. Lights flickered on across hundreds of ships. Lieutenant Cora appeared beside Riven. She had been listening from the doorway. "Captain," she said, The pale horizon is almost ready. Dr. Yuna says she just needs 1 more hour to finish the upgrades. Then we will wait 1 more hour, Riven said, and then we will join the human fleet. You trust them? Riven looked at the ships around him. He thought about the coffee in the cafeteria, the medical teams that had saved his soldiers, the engineers who had improved his ship without asking for payment, the admiral who had welcomed him like a friend. Yes, he said, I trust them. Dr. Yuna appeared, running toward them with a bag over her shoulder. Her face was excited. Lieutenant Cora, she shouted, I have one more gift for your ship, come quickly. She led them back to the pale horizon. In the engine room, she pointed to a large device that had been installed in the center of the floor. It hummed with power, glowing faintly blue. What is that? Cora asked. Experimental shield generator, Dr. Yuna said proudly. Human design. I have been working on it for 2 years. It is untested in combat, but if it works, it will make your ship nearly impossible to destroy. Untested, Cora repeated. It might explode. It might, but it probably will not. Maybe. Look, do you want it or not? Cora stared at the device. Then she stared at Dr. Yuna. The human woman was smiling, completely unbothered by the risk. Why do humans take such insane chances? Cora asked. Dr. Yuna shrugged. Because playing it safe never won a war. Now come on. We have a fleet to join and a battle to fight. She walked out of the engine room, humming happily to herself. Cora watched her go with an expression that was half admiration, half disbelief. These humans, she muttered, they are absolutely crazy. Yes, Captain Riven agreed, following Dr. Yuna out, and I am very glad they are on our side. The planet Vareth Prime burned below them. Fires spread across its surface, visible even from orbit. Smoke covered entire continents. The Dreth had been bombing the colony for 3 days, and there was no sign they would stop. Captain Riven stood on the bridge of the pale horizon, watching the destruction. Beside him, Lieutenant Cora counted the enemy ships. 240 Dreth vessels, she reported. Including their flagship, the Burning Claw, Warlord Keth commands the invasion personally. And our forces? The Galactic Commons has 70 ships in the system. They are holding position near the planet's moon, but they cannot advance. They are outnumbered more than 3 to 1. Riven nodded grimly. 70 ships against 240. It was not enough. It was nowhere near enough. Then his sensors lit up with new contacts. Ships were emerging from hyperspace. Many ships, hundreds of them. The human fleet had arrived. Captain Minji stood on the bridge of the Soul's Fury, the largest human dreadnought ever built. She was a small woman with short hair and cold eyes. She had been fighting in simulations her entire career, training for a battle that many said would never come. Now that battle was here and she was ready. All ships report battle ready, her first officer announced. 800 vessels standing by for orders. Minji looked at the tactical display. She could see the Dreth formation, spread out around the planet like a net. She could see the Commons fleet hiding behind the moon, and she could see Vareth Prime burning. Open a channel to the Dreth flagship, she ordered. The communication screen flickered to life. A face appeared. It was Warlord Keth, commander of the Dreth invasion force. His skin was dark red, covered in scales. His eyes were yellow and cruel. He smiled when he saw the human ships on his sensors. Humans, he said, his voice filled with amusement. The weakest species in the galaxy has come to die. How touching. I am Captain Minji of the United Earth Fleet, she replied calmly. You have one chance. Withdraw your forces from this system immediately, or we will destroy you. Keth laughed. It was an ugly sound. You have fewer ships than we do. Your technology is primitive. Your species has never fought a real war. What makes you think you can threaten me? Minji smiled. It was not a friendly smile. I guess you will find out. She cut the communication. All ships, she announced over the fleet channel. Attack Formation Alpha, close combat engagement, no mercy. The human fleet surged forward. Warlord Keth watched in confusion as the human ships accelerated toward his formation. This was wrong. Every species in the galaxy fought the same way. They stayed at long range, exchanging fire carefully, minimizing losses. That was the civilized way of war. The humans were not fighting in a civilized way. They were charging directly into close combat, accepting damage in order to deal damage faster. It was reckless. It was stupid. It was terrifying. The first human destroyers hit the Dreth lines like hammers. They fired at point-blank range, their weapons tearing through Dreth shields. They absorbed return fire that would have crippled other ships, and they kept fighting. "Damage report," Keth shouted. 14 ships destroyed, Warlord, 23 more damaged. The humans are not retreating. Then destroy them. Focus fire on their lead vessels. The Dreth fleet concentrated their weapons on the human ships. Plasma bolts and energy beams filled the space between the fleets. Human ships took hit after hit after hit. And they did not stop. Captain Riven watched from the pale horizon as the battle unfolded. He had seen many space battles in his career. He had never seen anything like this. The human ships were taking damage that should have destroyed them, but they had redundant systems. They had backup power. They had crews that refused to give up. Even when their shields failed and their armor cracked, they kept fighting. "It is insane," Lieutenant Cora whispered. "They are insane." "No," Riven said quietly. "They are determined. There is a difference." His communication system buzzed. It was Dr. Yuna calling from the engineering bay. "Captain, the shield generator is ready. I had to make some last-minute adjustments, but I think it will work. Probably." "Probably is good enough," Riven replied. "Lieutenant, take us into the battle. Let us see what this human technology can do." The pale horizon dove into the fight. Dreth ships fired at them immediately. Riven braced for impact. The shots hit the new shield and bounced away. The generator hummed with power, absorbing energy that should have torn through their hull. Cora laughed. It was a sound of pure joy and relief. "It works. The crazy human invention actually works." "Then let us use it," Riven said. "Plot a course for the Dreth flagship. We are going to end this war." On the Soul's Fury, Captain Minji was watching the same thing. She saw the pale horizon charge toward the enemy flagship, its shields glowing bright blue. She smiled. "The Velthari ship is leading a strike team," her officer reported. "They are heading for the Burning Claw." "Support them," Minji ordered. "All nearby ships provide cover fire. Let us help our new friends kill that warlord." The battle continued to rage. Human ships and Dreth ships tore at each other across the entire system. Explosions lit up the darkness. Debris floated everywhere. But slowly, the tide was turning. The humans were winning. It should not have been possible. The Dreth had more ships. They had more experience. They had been winning this war for 20 years, but they had never faced an enemy like this. Human crews did not stop for rest. They drank coffee and kept fighting. When one crew member fell, another took their place. When one system failed, they rerouted power and kept shooting. They fought with a stubbornness that the Dreth could not understand. And they sacrificed for each other. The destroyer Busan Star took a direct hit to its engine core. The damage was fatal. The ship would explode in minutes, and there was no way to repair it. Captain Doyeon looked at his crew. They were young, most of them. This was their first real battle. They did not deserve to die here. "All hands," he announced. "Abandon ship, get to the escape pods, that is an order." His crew obeyed, rushing to the pods and launching them away from the dying ship. Doyeon stayed on the bridge. Someone had to guide the vessel in its final moments. He looked at the tactical display. There was a Dreth carrier nearby, launching fighters to attack the Commons fleet. If he could reach it, he could take it with him. "One more job," he said quietly. "One more thing I can do." He aimed the Busan star at the carrier and pushed the engines to full power. The dying ship screamed through space, trailing fire and smoke. The Dreth carrier tried to turn, tried to escape, but it was too late. The Busan star hit the carrier at full speed. Both ships exploded in a ball of flame that could be seen across the entire system. On the pale horizon, Captain Riven watched the explosion. He felt something in his chest: grief, admiration, wonder. "They sacrificed themselves," he said, "to save others." "Yes," Lieutenant Cora replied. Her voice was strange. "That is what humans do." Warlord Keth was screaming orders on his bridge. Nothing was working. His ships were dying. His formation was breaking apart. The humans were everywhere, relentless and unstoppable. And now the Velthari ship was coming straight for him. The pale horizon hit the burning claw with everything it had. Missiles and plasma and laser fire poured into the Dreth flagship. Its shields flickered and died. Its armor cracked and burned. "Fire the main cannon," Riven shouted. The pale horizon's primary weapon, upgraded by human engineers, fired a beam of pure destruction into the heart of the burning claw. The flagship split in half. Air and fire rushed out into space. Warlord Keth screamed as his bridge collapsed around him. And then the flagship was gone, just debris drifting in the darkness. The Dreth fleet saw their warlord die. They saw their flagship destroyed, and they broke. Ships turned and fled, jumping into hyperspace wherever they could. The organized fleet became a scattered mob, running in all directions. The human and common ships chased them, destroying every vessel that was too slow to escape. Within an hour it was over. Vareth Prime was saved. The fire still burned on its surface, but no more bombs would fall. The people who had hidden in shelters and bunkers would survive. The colony would rebuild. Captain Minji stood on her bridge and looked at the stars. Around her, human ships floated in formation, battered but victorious. They had lost 12 vessels. The Dreth had lost over 90. Her communication screen activated. It was High Commander Thel. "Captain Minji," Thel said. His voice was shaking. "I have reviewed the battle reports. I have seen the footage. I do not understand. How is this possible? How did you do this?" Minji thought about her answer for a long moment. "We prepared," she said simply. "We trained, we believed, and we never ever give up." Thel was silent. Then he asked the question that had been burning in his mind since the battle began. "How long have you been preparing for war?" Minji smiled. It was a tired smile, but there was pride in it. "Since the day we first looked up at the stars, High Commander. Humans have always known that the universe is dangerous. We have always known that someday we would need to fight. So we got ready." She looked out at her fleet, at the ships that had proven humanity's worth, at the crews who had fought and bled and won. "And now," she said, "we are here." Thel nodded slowly. "Yes, you are, and I think the galaxy will never be the same." The communication ended. Minji leaned back in her chair and closed her eyes. They had won, but this was just the beginning. The Dreth would return. More battles would come. But humans would be ready. They would always be ready. That was simply who they were. News of the battle spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Every species, every world, every ship heard about what had happened at Vareth Prime. The recordings were shared millions of times. Analysts studied the footage. Military leaders watched in stunned silence. Humans, the primitive newcomers, the weak species that everyone had ignored for 15 years. They had arrived with an impossible fleet and crushed the Dreth Dominion in a single day. Everything the galaxy believed about humanity was wrong. On Mugunghwa Station, the celebration lasted for 3 days. Human and Velthari crew members danced and sang together. Yi served so much coffee that he ran out of beans and had to order emergency supplies from Earth. Dr. Yuna received messages of congratulation from engineering academies across the Commons, praising her shield generator design. But there was no time to rest. The war was not over. Admiral Tiho stood before his officers in the command center. His face was serious, but his eyes were bright. "The Dreth will regroup," he said. "They still have colonies and shipyards. They will build more vessels. They will come back, so we will not wait for them. We will hunt them down. We will end this war before it can spread." The human fleet did not return to Earth. Instead, they deployed across Dreth space, striking at supply lines and destroying manufacturing stations. General Yoon Seung worked alongside Galactic Commons commanders, sharing human tactics and technology. Within weeks, the combined forces had pushed the Dreth back to their core systems. For the first time in 20 years, the Dominion was losing. High Commander Thel traveled to Mugunghwa Station to meet with Admiral Tiho in person. They sat together in the Admiral's office, drinking tea and discussing the future. "I owe you an apology," Thel said. "The Galactic Commons dismissed your species. We called you primitive. We ignored your potential. That was a mistake." "It was," Tiho agreed. "But we understand why you did it. We were new, we were strange, and we did not show you our full strength." "Why did you hide?" Thel asked. "You had the power to demand respect from the beginning. Why wait?" Tiho smiled. "Because power without wisdom is dangerous. We needed time to learn, to understand the galaxy, to make sure we were ready to use our strength responsibly. We did not want to be conquerors. We wanted to be allies." Thel nodded slowly. "And now?" "Now we are ready. Earth will stand with the Galactic Commons, not as a minor member but as an equal partner. We will fight beside you, trade with you, build with you. The galaxy is our home now, and we will help protect it." The two leaders shook hands. It was a simple gesture, but it marked a turning point in galactic history. Ambassador Nari addressed the full Galactic Commons Council 3 weeks later. She stood at the center of a vast circular chamber, surrounded by representatives from over 300 species. Every seat was filled. Every eye was on her. "Distinguished members of the Council," she began, "I am here to accept the voting rights that were promised to Earth, but more than that, I am here to explain who we are." She paused, letting her words settle. "Humans are not the strongest species. We are not the oldest. We are not the wisest, but we have something that sets us apart. We care. We care about people we have never met. We care about worlds we have never visited. We care about species we do not understand." She walked slowly around the chamber, making eye contact with delegates. "When we received the distress call from the pale horizon, we did not ask what we would gain from helping. We simply helped. When we learned that Velthari worlds were burning, we did not calculate the cost of intervention. We simply went. That is not strategy. That is not politics. That is just who we are." She stopped in the center of the chamber. "Some of you are afraid of us now. You have seen our fleet. You have seen what we can do. I understand that fear. But I ask you to look at our actions, not our power. We have never conquered. We have never oppressed. We have only defended those who needed defending." Her voice grew stronger. "Humanity offers the galaxy our friendship, our loyalty, our protection. We ask only that you accept us as equals. We ask only that you stand with us as we will stand with you. Together, we can build something greater than any of us could build alone. A galaxy of peace, of cooperation, of shared hope." She raised her hand. "That is my offer. That is humanity's promise. The future is ours to create. Let us create it together." The chamber was silent. Then slowly applause began. It grew and grew until it filled the entire room. Delegates from dozens of species stood and cheered. For the first time in galactic history, humans were not ignored. They were celebrated. Earth received its voting rights. Ambassador Nari was appointed to the Council's inner circle, and the galaxy began to change. Meanwhile, smaller changes were happening too. Yi, the cafeteria manager, received an official title, Culinary Ambassador of Earth. It was mostly a joke, but he took it seriously anyway. He began shipping coffee to species across the commons, adjusting the blends for different biologies. Within months, coffee houses were opening on alien worlds. The drink that humans needed to function became the drink that the galaxy could not live without. "This is ridiculous," Yi said, reading another order request. "They want 10,000 bags of beans. Where am I supposed to find 10,000 bags?" He found them. He always found them. Dr. Yuna was recruited by the Galactic Commons Engineering Council. Her first assignment was to redesign the standard Commonwealth warship using human principles. Lieutenant Cora volunteered to be her assistant, saying she wanted to understand how humans thought. "You do not think like other species," Cora said one day, watching Yuna work. "You see problems differently. Where others see limits, you see challenges to overcome." Yuna shrugged. "We are stubborn. It is our greatest strength and our greatest weakness. We refuse to accept that something is impossible. Sometimes that leads to great inventions. Sometimes it leads to great mistakes, but it always leads to something interesting." Cora considered this. "I think I am beginning to like humans." "Give it time," Yuna grinned. "We grow on you like fungus." Captain Riven was promoted to fleet commander of the Velthari forces. In his first address to his new fleet, he spoke about what he had learned from humans. "I came to Earth expecting nothing," he said. "I came with a dying ship and a desperate crew. The humans owed us nothing. They had no reason to help, but they helped anyway. They saved our lives. They fixed our ship. They gave us coffee." The officers in the room laughed. Every Velthari soldier knew about coffee now. It had become as popular among their people as it was among humans. "I learned something important from them," Riven continued. "I learned that strength is not just about weapons and ships. It is about heart, about the willingness to help others without expecting anything in return. That is what makes humans powerful, not their technology, not their tactics, their heart." He lifted his cup. It was full of coffee, of course. "To humanity, to friendship, and to the future we will build together." His officers raised their cups and echoed the toast. The Dreth Dominion received intelligence reports about all of these changes. They learned about the human fleet. They learned about the new alliance. They learned about the technology sharing and the tactical cooperation. For the first time in their history, the Dreth considered surrender. The war would continue for several more months. There would be more battles, more losses, more sacrifices. But the outcome was no longer in doubt. The Dreth could not win against a united galaxy. They could not defeat an enemy that refused to give up. And in the end, they would have to make peace. Corporal Bora stood on the surface of Verath Prime 6 months after the battle. The planet was recovering. Buildings were being rebuilt. Forests were regrowing. Life was returning to a world that had nearly been destroyed. She had come to visit the memorial. It was a simple stone wall carved with names. Velthari names and human names, side by side. The soldiers who had died to save this world. She placed a flower at the base of the wall. It was a mugunghwa, the rose of Sharon, the national flower of Korea. It seemed fitting somehow. A shadow fell beside her. She looked up and saw Captain Riven. "I did not know you were here," she said. "I come every month," Riven replied, "to remember to pay my respects." He looked at the names on the wall. They died for a world that was not their own, for people they had never met. I still do not fully understand why. Bora was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Because it was the right thing to do. That is all the reason humans need." Riven nodded slowly. "I believe you. I have seen it with my own eyes. Your species does not act out of selfishness. You act out of, I do not know the word." "Compassion," Bora offered. "Empathy, care." "Yes, those words." He looked up at the sky, where ships from a dozen species patrolled together. "You have changed everything, you know. The galaxy will never be the same. Is that good or bad? Good, I think. Better than it was, more hopeful. He turned to her and extended his hand in the human greeting. Thank you, Corporal Bora, for everything. She took his hand. Thank you for giving us a chance. They stood together in silence, human and alien, watching the sun set over a world they had saved together. Far above them on Mugunghwa Station, Admiral Tiho looked out at Earth through the observation window. The planet turned slowly, blue and green and beautiful. His home, his world, the birthplace of a species that had just stepped onto the galactic stage. He thought about the journey that had brought them here, the years of preparation, the hidden fleet, the moment when they finally revealed themselves, and now the new role they would play in the galaxy's future. We did it, he said quietly. We actually did it. He raised his coffee cup to the stars. To humanity, may we never stop reaching. May we never stop caring. May we never stop fighting for what is right. He drank deeply, savoring the bitter warmth. Outside, the stars burned bright and endless. The galaxy was vast and dangerous and full of wonders, and humanity was finally, truly, a part of it. Not as visitors, not as newcomers, but as family. And families, Captain Riven had learned, take care of each other. The end.